Everything just changed for the Edmonton Oilers, and they made multiple moves this afternoon in an effort to clear up cap space to bring Zach Hyman off of LTIR and get him onto the roster for tomorrow night's game against the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll get into what the Oilers did to make an effort to clear up that cap space, and we will also go over last night's game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're Columbus twice in 1 week, and the Monday result was fantastic, and last night not so much, but we will cover that today here on the channel. Hope everybody is enjoying their Friday. We have afternoon hockey on right now with the European NHL games there, so hopefully you're enjoying that while you're also enjoying the videos here on Oilers Digest. Make sure you hit subscribe down below, as 72% of you watching these videos haven't yet done so. So folks, what are you waiting for? For any and all Oiler news, the good, the bad, and the ugly, we have it covered for you here on the channel. Now, without further ado, let's get into last night's result there, as the Oilers drop a close one 5-4 to the Columbus Blue Jackets there, and the Oilers record moves to 8-7-4. Taking a look at the scoring summary here, it was all Columbus in the opening 40 minutes. Their goal of with Matthew Olivier off a deflection is what I meant to say there, from Charlie Coyle's stick, making it 1-0 Jackets, and Charlie Coyle himself gets on the board there. The Blue Jackets third line, ripping it up for Columbus last night. Charlie Coyle getting on the board there, but Matt Savoy, a deflection of his own off of an Evan Bouchard bomb there, making it 2-1 Jackets, and then shortly thereafter, Leon Draisaitl ties up the game. But after that, the Oilers, they get on the board, they tie it, and the Blue Jackets take that lead there, and they would not look back at all later that night there. And Adam Fantilli off, an Oilers break down there, adding on to the Jackets lead there. And in the third period, Matthew Olivier again with another goal for the Blue Jackets. And then Vasily Podkolzin and Leon Draisaitl make it very close for the Oilers, but unable to do what they did on Monday night and get it tied up late in the third period there. The Oilers, they played fantastic in the third period. It just boils down to showing up when, it's getting to be a little too late there. We've seen that time and time again from the Oilers, and, getting a full 60 out of them just seems to be a tough task there. But Darnell Nurse saying, we battled our way and kept it within striking distance, but weren't able to get the last one to get into overtime. But I think for us as a group, it's not good enough to just try to get to overtime. I think we can all be better there. Yeah, you don't say, Darnell. You're probably the one that needs the most work there. But, Darnell Nurse facing the media. And, again, what else can these guys say? Like, yeah, losing sucks. We need to do better. We need to do a whole lot more. But after a certain point, it just becomes, again, lip service for the Oilers. They can say, yeah, we're going to try this. We're going to do that. We're going to, try and win the next game. But, the next game, they just revert back to old habits there, and they just don't start on time there. In the bottom six last night, you could have expected a little bit more out of these guys, getting outshot and just out everything by the Columbus Blue Jackets last night. Some guys that I would expect, to, do a little bit more, get into, the nitty gritty against the Columbus Blue Jackets team, who again have, grinders of their own. But Tomasic, has cooled off after, the opening to the season there. Trent Frederick is there for some reason, 8 years to do what exactly, not too sure. And then Curtis Lazar, Matthias Janmark, and then Noah Phillip again. Just quiet games from the Oilers' bottom six last night in a game that you would need them to step up. The first line was Savoy, McDavid, and Draisaitl when they were put together. Fantastic, shooting the lights out. But again, the Oilers are, reverting back to a one-trick pony team where it's just McDavid and Draisaitl, and then, a bunch of nobody. Sure, they had no Nugent, they had no Hyman, but you need other guys to step up when McDavid and Draisaitl are just putting the team on their back. Just seems to be, that's the way it's been for the past 10 years. Why change now, right? And then a tale of two defensive pairings there. A high event game for Ekholm in Bouchard last night, in a game of let's throw that one in the trash there with Darnell Nurse and Jake Wallman. I was so hyped for this Nurse and Wallman pairing, but just seems to be whatever Darnell Nurse does, he just drags down the guy that is right next to him there in Jake Wallman. On the third pairing, that Kulak and Emerson again had a quiet game, didn't do anything wrong, didn't do anything great. I didn't have them here, but it's these two here where, the Oilers, coming into the season, they had, a top three defensive rank in the NHL, but now it's just not looking like that whatsoever there. But Evan Bouchard, that you take the highs and the highs, and you take the lows with the lows there. That's just the kind of player he is there. But I want a whole lot more out of Nurse in Walman. But again, that top line in the third period, all over the Columbus Blue Jackets, but unable to get anything going. They had like 64% expected goal percentage. I mean, that is just absolutely ludicrous there. But for the Oilers, a big problem for them last night was just, not just goaltending. We'll get into that in a little bit, folks. I mean, death taxes and the Oilers goaltending letting us down once again there, but it's just the whole defensive breakdowns in the Oilers in the D zone. I thought we were a little too soft around the net, whether they were deflecting pucks or getting inside of us. They scored multiple goals like that, and there was one early in the second period where there was a turnover in. That's unfortunate. Mind you, it was a Connor McDavid turnover, but everybody's ripping on Evan Bouchard, but there's nothing we can do about that. We have to make it harder for them to get inside position on us, and too often they were left alone in front of the net. I mean, Kris Knoblauch raises a fantastic point there. Teams, they're getting into the Oilers' kitchen far too easily, and there's no pushback whatsoever by the Oilers' defense. Where you see other teams, when the Oilers crowd the net, you see the other teams box these guys out, and our guys look at that and say, hey, we should do that. But you know what? We're not going to. That's just more work for us there. We're getting paid to do the bare minimum. Let's not go any further here. But the Oilers, not just that, but the goaltending. The Blue Jackets hit 6 goalposts on the night there. I mean, there was a whole bunch in the first period where Calvin Pickard, channeled his inner Patrick Waugh, not play style, but just, thanking the posts for helping him out there. But, Pickard, again, this year compared to last year, it is, north and south there. I mean, Calvin Pickard has saved the Oilers bacon in 2 straight playoff runs there, but I think that lightning in a bottle has run out for Calvin Pickard, unfortunately. No offense to him whatsoever. He's done his job well, but the Oilers, their play in front of him, you'd add his goaltending in there. I always said he had no particular style. It was just, a street hockey goalie. And, that has served them up until this point there. And the Oilers just, they need to cut bait with Calvin Pickard before it is far too late there. Just taking a look at his stats there: 800, 762, 864, 852, and an 815 there. The last time he had a quality start there where he had, positive goals saved above expected was the second game of the season against the Vancouver Canucks, and that was more than a month ago there. So just a recipe for disaster in the making there. As I mentioned, sure, Pickard wasn't having any favor served by the team in front of them there, especially in the low slot to the crease there. As Knoblauch said, there were a whole lot of Blue Jackets in that crease there, and the Oilers not boxing them out. But, when they're in close, it'd be nice to get a save once in a while there. I'm not saying, be lights out every single night. Just help out your team in front of you there. But, that was not the case last night at all there. And, Calvin Pickard, again, as I mentioned, this season compared to last season, sure, he had a lot of starts last year where, it wasn't against, playoff teams. There were more non-playoff teams there. But, 22-10 in 1 last year, that's pretty good no matter who you play. And then this year, 2-3 in 1. There were the goals against average of 4.17 and a save percentage of 830. I mean, his only other win this season came against the Montreal Canadiens in a game where the Oilers had to outscore their goaltending there. But we move forward, folks. It was a bad game last night. Second half of a back-to-back didn't look like, in the third period they were on the second half of a back-to-back. But the dangerous part was the Oilers woke up when it was far too late there, and they couldn't get that miracle like they did on Monday night there. But it goes from, bad to worse, or on paper it looks like it's bad to worse, as the Oilers go up against one of the deepest teams in the NHL there with the Carolina Hurricanes. But some good news here, folks. Zach Hyman will make his season debut tomorrow night, but on the flip side, Troy Stecher has been placed on waivers to go down to the Bakersfield Condors if he's, not claimed beforehand. I could see some interest with him. on the waiver wire. I mean, 32-year-old, veteran defenseman, has played in the playoffs before. He can pretty much do everything you ask him to do. I mean, I love Troy Stecher, but it was time for him, if he does get claimed, it was time for him to move on there. The Oilers depth chart defensively getting a little bit too clogged there, but the other main story here, Ike Howard being sent to the Bakersfield Condors there. He is waivers exempt there, and again, I had, high hopes for him to start out the year, but rookies being rookies there, he could use some seasoning down in Bakersfield. But there is an NHL player there. He's got the swagger, he's got the personality to be an NHL player, just needs to, work on that a little bit more with the Bakersfield Condors there. But the Oilers, going from the Blue Jackets to the Hurricanes. Darnell Nurse with some more lip service here for Oiler fans. Full 60 beginning on Saturday. Yes, why wait until, the second month of the season to finally play a full 60-minute game? Day off tomorrow, so recharge and get our mind off of it and then come back. It's been a really hard test. There's going to be a really hard test that we're going to have on Saturday, and a lot of times that brings out the best of our group. So recharge, refocus, and look forward to the next challenge there. So hopefully Darnell doesn't make me regret watching the game tomorrow night. But that is it for today's video, folks. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about last night's game there, and what do you think about Stecher being placed on waivers and Ike Howard being sent down to the Condors. Very curious to see what you all have to say down in the comments below. But enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy the NHL game that's on right now. I mean, it's not too often we have a weekday afternoon game, but cherish it while you can, folks. And we will be back to preview the Carolina Hurricanes against our Edmonton Oilers tomorrow afternoon. But again, enjoy the rest of your day, folks. Take care. I'm Matt.